Your slogan when you ran was people, not politics. I beg to differ, sir. I beg to differ. It is politics and not the people. I have respect for you for stepping up. I don't know what you did prior. I don't know if you volunteered. I don't know where you were in the city. I only heard from you one time when we seen you on Brick City Town Hall a long time ago when you were a private citizen. But I don't remember you volunteering for anything. I don't remember you at any council meetings. I seen you at a school board meeting when they were removing a principal, but that was the only time. I heard from your friends. I'm sorry. When I'm accused of being a conspiracy theorist and spreading misinformation, I'm going to defend that. And I'm going to defend that using proof. These podcasts started off as information podcast. Here, question this about your government. Speak up toward your government. Let them know you're there. Don't let them just make any old decision. You need to be there and support, not only in support of your government, but to be that check and balance on government. That's our job as citizens. We hand over certain rights that we inherently have to government to help move our communities and society forward. But we need, not only did our founding fathers set up the republic the way they did, brilliantly for the most part, they also knew that we have to be, as citizens, a check and balance as well. At the end of my podcast, I believe it was 19, the Tiff podcast, I looked for the upcoming agenda because I wanted to see if that stuff was on there, because it was such a hot topic, because it was pretty intense if you watch the discussion. And it wasn't on there. And I laughed, not knowing what was going on at the time. I laughed and made a joke. I didn't make an inference or give the listeners an impression of something devious. I made a joke. I apologize. You do not understand humor. But now we have to question, if details are not fully given, what else is going on? Those are questions that are going to happen. If it's not fully explained, okay, guys, here's what happened. We left the work session with legislation on the table. We were going to bring it here. However, our city attorney had some more research to do or whatever, so we're not going to bring that to you today. I am going to meet with the superintendent. I am going to talk about TIFs, CRAs, and the previous meeting. That was said. That cannot be taken away. Detail. In all this, all I'm really saying is be more transparent. The city was moving in the right direction, and I was happy with that. The OpenGov portal is up. All these media, the way they structured the new website is awesome. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. But guess what? Government makes mistakes too. And you can't go on not apologizing. And you can't go on trying to switch it up because you want to get that re-election. You have to say, okay, we made a mistake. We're going to work harder to be more transparent. But why do I get the impression that there are things being left out on purpose? That's just an impression I'm getting now. If you have to resort to words like conspiracy, devious, unethical, immoral, those were the accusations. All right. Jeff Gore, thank you for listening. I truly appreciate that. However, it's rather subjective to make assumptions based on voice inflections. I think using the public records and meeting audio is sufficient proof that transparency is a struggle at this time. That's my opinion, and many share that same opinion. Many share that same opinion. They do. You have to understand that. And I know the 5 and the 15 aren't being paid attention to. Gore writes, just going to say that it wasn't a voice inflection. You laughed and made mention that it wouldn't be smart to have the pilot discussed and the compensation increase on the same agenda. That was a comment I and many others believe was made to suggest something other than the truth was going on. Now that everyone reading this knows the truth, we can let it go and the discussion will be at the next meeting. No, sir, I question why it was said earlier on by another council member that the only thing that was happening, and that's how I read it, reading Facebook isn't always the greatest thing to come away with a full understanding. So I understand that. So that's why we ask questions. I wasn't inferring anything, and everyone will know the truth, because not once did I suggest something other than the truth was going on. What I was suggesting the entire time is the city of Huber Heights has a history of difficulty with transparency. That's the truth. I made a joke, guys. I made a joke about the legislation that was discussed at the work session wasn't on the agenda because they were talking about council compensation. That was a joke. How many times have you had a discussion with somebody talking about politicians giving other politicians a raise? We give ourselves a raise. If you're into politics, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably into politics. That's been talked about before. You've had that conversation. Many of us have had that conversation. So when I make a joke, I'm not suggesting something other than the truth. I'm making a joke. Don't be so sensitive, Mr. Mayor. I write, Jeff Gore, the truth according to whom? Was I commenting on an official's statement? Meaning there was a report given. There was no legislation, but there was the compensation first reading. We're getting that moving on. So I make a joke. I'm sorry. If that was upsetting, then I apologize. Sincerely. If that was confusing to anyone, then I sincerely apologize. I'm going to tell you when I'm wrong. I like it when people call me out and say, hey, dude, you might want to think about that. Other people, whoa, they don't like that. Don't question their authority. And then I also write, thanks for the conversation. I hope this didn't violate your social media policy. Mr. Gore writes, the truth isn't subjective. The truth is the truth, and it is what it is. I've said nothing but the truth in this conversation, and if you are implying otherwise, you just made my point. Secondly, before we go to secondly, at what time did I imply anything otherwise than the truth? Secondly, I'm not violating the social media guidelines. I'm clarifying a misunderstanding. Whose? Yours or mine? I'm also still waiting to hear whose message and what message is attempted to be controlled. I've heard that in a couple different places and even read it in a Courier article, but no one has given any specifics. Mr. Gore did not provide the Courier article, but I did do some research and I found a Courier article that talks about the social media policy. And halfway down the article, after the meet, this is from the Courier, after the meeting, Shaw and Otto, referring to Ward 1 Representative Richard Shaw and at-large Representative Glenn Otto, both said they felt the standards were unnecessary. Here's a quote. When we ran for council, we stated at the time, we don't believe in a social media policy, Shaw said. We both have run our Facebook council pages in an appropriate and professional manner and don't see any need to have any rules or guidelines dictate that. Otto agreed. That's from the Huber Heights Courier. Does anybody disagree with that? What were the social media guidelines meant to do then? Because both of those men have ran social media pages, Facebook pages that were responsible and professional and met any of the guidelines. On with the Courier here. There's no need to regulate that among council, he said. It's unnecessary. In my opinion, it is just another attempt to control certain messages, and I just don't find that necessary. Why would a council member say that? Was he lying? Is he a conspiracy theorist? Or has there been attempts to control messaging, to control the direction of city council, to control the agenda? Are the critics being listened to? Is the 5 and 15 out there being listened to? Or is it just, this is our agenda, this is the way we're moving the city. If you don't get on board, if you're not in our friends then you need to kick rocks. You have nothing to say. Mayor Jeff Gore is on the other side of this issue from the Huber Heights Courier. It's really meant to protect this city, Gore said. I believe we made it very clear that the policy isn't meant to control the speech of anyone. It's not to limit free speech from anyone. This council is 9 individuals who use social media in different ways. Not all 9 individuals use social media in different ways, and it has to be delineated that when someone speaks, they're not speaking on behalf of the city. Gore said the guidelines are also would prevent social media accounts from being regarded as public record. Perhaps that's the Courier article he was referring to. He did not give us any references to which Courier article he was talking about. You're right, Mr. Gore. The truth isn't subjective. The truth is the truth. Please. Where's the information that I lied? Where's the information that I am providing conspiracy theories to my listeners? Please point out where I'm giving the listeners an impression or suggesting that something devious was going on. I didn't give that impression. I play clips from your meetings. I give opinion. I hope that those listening have questions. Not only on government, but questions on this podcast. Why did Matt say that like that? I haven't heard anything but good things except from council members. Of course, government's not going to like the people questioning the government. They want to fulfill their agenda, move forward with their pet projects, and just shut up the rest of you. That, sir, is controlling the message. I think we should talk about something else as well when concerning controlling the message. From the 2017 Rules of Council, Item J, Presiding Officer. The presiding officer for council work sessions will be a designated council member or the mayor that will serve on a monthly rotational basis by the order of seating on the city council dais. Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, at large, mayor, at large, Ward 4, Ward 5, Ward 6. A council member or the mayor may opt out of the rotation to act as the presiding officer for council work sessions by providing advance notice to the clerk of council. When did that end? When did that come into place? And when did that end? March 25th, 2019, the rules of council were adopted in the city of Huber Heights. Section J is relatively shorter than the 2017 rules. J, presiding officer. The mayor presides over regular city council meetings, special city council meetings, council work sessions, committee of the whole meetings, and other council meetings. However, in the absence of the mayor, the vice mayor presides. In the absence of the mayor and the vice mayor, or at the discretion of mayor or vice mayor, the council may elect a council member to serve as presiding officer. For the meeting provided below, or for the meeting provided a council quorum is present, the mayor is a member of council but does not have voting rights, which weak mayor, on issues in regular city council meetings or special city council meetings, except in cases of tie votes. The mayor is a non-voting member of all council-appointed committees. The vice mayor serves as a council member with all voting and other rights according to that position. And that's it. They removed, when Mayor McMasters left and Mayor Gore came in, they removed that provision. So let's read again. The mayor, Jeff Gore, I'm clarifying a misunderstanding. I'm also still waiting to hear whose message and what message is attempted to be controlled. There were a couple examples. We had the 2017 Rules of Council where Mayor Tom McMasters is essentially removed as the presiding officer. The new mayor comes in, Mayor Gore, who campaigned with the old council. We, Team Heights, if you will, campaigned with all of them, had his coalition. You can look at the financial reports. You can see who is contributing to his campaign. People, not politics. I disagree. In my opinion, I